Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene. As this is another episode of where we discuss the sports scene in Bledsoe County, the state and nation, and the international sports scene, of course. And my name is Mike Smith, and this is Bradley Hargis. As I hope that you made it all through the Christmas holidays and the snowstorms that we've had over the past few weeks. And of course, we're ready to discuss a lot of things. That's basically college football season, the high school basketball season, and the pro season, such as the Super Bowl, which is going to come up. And we're also going to discuss the death of a baseball legend, Bob Uecker. And of course, first up, of course, is the high school sports scene, the basketball season. It's winding down. The regular season is winding down, and soon will be the tournament. That is likely to be one of two places, either at Tyner Academy or at Sequatchie County High School, one of the two places. They're supposed to meet probably in the next few days.
From what I understand, it's been decided it's going to be at Tyner at their new gym.
Yeah, they want to christen it off, and I don't blame them for that. As they're about complete there, and Tyner told me that they have kept the steps for you as a souvenir.
Yeah, I'm sure they have.
But anyway, that'll be the District 2 tournament. That'll be the 17th of February. And it'll start. And of course, we had some basketball last night. Bledsoe County and Cumberland County met in a matchup. Unfortunately for the girls, they hung in there for a half and actually trailed by 8 at halftime. But unfortunately, Cumberland County just basically dominated from start to finish in the second half, actually shutting out the Lady Warriors, 32 to nothing, and ended up a 54-14 win over Bledsoe County. The boys team, however, turned out to be a different horse of different color, as basically both teams went at it with the usual thing. And I was quite impressed by Cumberland County. They threw that ball quite long and had opportunities to score. But Bledsoe, in the end, outlasted the Jets of Cumberland County, and they win their second straight over the Jets by 2 points. And obviously, a good omen ahead. And of course, Friday night, Bledsoe County will be at Dunlap to renew their border rivalry against Sequatchie. Bledsoe's the only team in the area that actually has 3 border rivalries: Van Buren County, Cumberland County, and Sequatchie.
Sequatchie and Cumberland. Yep.
So that's the only local school that has that sort of border rivalry type thing going on.
And they're heated rivalries too. It's not just a rivalry tag. It's heated. I mean, more so Sequatchie and Van Buren. But Cumberland County, man, they want to beat us, and we want to beat them too. So it's
steam was coming out of the Cumberland County boys head coach, and he came close to getting thrown out of the game. he was really going on there. I learned some new words. But be honest, right now it was a very interesting Tuesday night battle, and obviously we had quite a few people there, and we of course congratulate the fans showing up from both sides to support their teams. And of course, that was a non-district game. Used to be a big district matchup, but so it indicates that how Bledsoe County has improved the boys team. The girls team still is undermanned, small, and just trying to find its way there. But the
girls have got some athletes on the team. I mean, they've got talent. It's there. It's just the fact that number one, you're dealing with a new coach, which nothing negative against him or the team.
Yeah.
It's just you have to implement a system, and the girls, like I said, have the talent. It's just that they've not found their roles yet with the team. Mm-hmm. Every team, every year. If you're starting over anew, which in essence is what Bledsoe County Lady Warriors are doing, you have to find your role. You have to find out who's going to be, the couple of good ball carriers. Who's going to be the one to force down low? Who's going to be the one to, pass the ball better? Who's going to be, once you find out those things, it's a lot easier to run your offensive schemes as far as your plays. But they've just not found that yet.
Well,
good athletes, young ladies are playing their hearts out, but it's just they're falling up short. 2-12 on the year, as a matter of fact. But they will still, obviously, every team will go to the district tournament on February 17th, the week of February 17th. Yeah. And then after that, we'll go to the regions and then state. So there's opportunity, girls and boys, to do great things. Boys are 8-6 on the year, but still they're a fiery squad. I mean, watching them play, like you said, they play at Dunlap Friday night, and the following Friday they play at Van Buren
And
So,
of course, they'll end up with Marion and Whitwell to home.
That's
to
the two home games left.
Whitwell will be a senior night, and of course, Marion will be the closer. And unless the weather turns and turns into something else, which you hope it doesn't. But Bledsoe's, again, these teams are building. They're not used to be the championship style teams used to have, but still, you still have a lot to look forward to in that category, as these players, of course, have given everything they have here tonight. And of course, Friday night, when the last time they played Sequatchie County, Bledsoe went on a tear. They hit 9 out of 11 three-pointers, and the leading scorer had 34 points. I mean, they went down there and they just put the wood to Sequatchie County and won big, and that was an amazing game. One funny thing in when did one game actually got discombobulated the opponent player so much he went down and scored a bucket on the other end. It was too. I think in football that's called a safety.
Yeah.
So
same point either way.
So I think it's that sort of amused everybody more or less. Anything. I expressed the opinion. I hope the coach is not too hard on that young man. But that was one of those crazy deals that you have. Of course, I've seen a lot of things happening in basketball. Some years ago, we were down at Dunlap playing in the tournament, and they had Chattanooga Christian come down there. And remember that one? That was one where I could have gone out for a pizza, a steak dinner, and come back, and nothing happened.
There is two things. There's two games that I can remember that I would just assume to watch grass grow than to watch those two games again. One, I could have left. That was this one you're talking about. Chattanooga Christian.
Yeah.
Playing against Our Lady Warriors, stalling the ball at the top of the key, just out there, just killing the clock. And that was one of them. The second one was the 3-0 football game, Bledsoe and Polk County.
Yeah, that was
the Fog Bowl.
Yeah,
that was. Those two games are just the slowest two games that I have ever seen in my life.
The thing about it is what that game against Chattanooga Christian is that steam was coming out of Carl Davis's ears.
Mm-hmm.
I kept saying like this, and I had Jesse Riggs, who was doing color with me at the time, and we were going around there, and I said, Carl, I said Jesse, I'm running out of things to say. I don't know how it is, because they were just holding on 4-0 in halftime. 4-0, and it would end up being like 15-4 or something like that. And I kept saying, I said, Lord, I do not want to have to go through another game like that ever again.
And that situations like that is why a lot of people are lobbying for a shot clock in high school.
Yeah, that's right, because really the reason why they have a shot clock in college, this happened back in the 1970s. Tennessee was playing somebody, and Tennessee just held onto the ball. And it ended up, I think it was like 16-7. And after that, the NCAA's, okay, shot clock.
If you remember, Carlos Davis had a district championship team that year.
Yeah,
and I mean that's when they had the big girls down low and they had the shooters out front. I mean they really could put the points on the board, and the scheme was brilliant. You got to hats off to the coach at Chattanooga Christian, because they can't score if they don't have the ball.
That's right.
But again, you still have to score to beat them.
That's right.
I mean, you got to do something. So
for nothing, and of course, Carlos lodged a complaint about that. I don't know if they talked to the Chattanooga Christian people about don't ever do that again, and that sort of thing. Because from the logic I got was that Chattanooga Christian couldn't beat Bledsoe up front in a man-to-man game. So basically, is that they did Mr. Keep Away. And I kept saying, I said, God, why don't these referees step in there? And I asked one of the referees after the game, why didn't you step in there and do this? I said, well, there's no rule saying that they had to step in.
There's no shot clock, and as long as they are unguarded, there's no 5-second clock. I mean, and there was space between the defender and the offensive player. So they didn't have to count it down. They just stood there and dribbled the ball. And the thing about it is, if you got out there to guard them, they throw it somewhere else, work it right back out to where it was. So, I mean, they're not going to try to score or anything. And it's just useless. And you run your team to death trying to get out there and stop them and get the ball from them. So, hence you end up with a 15-4 final, after watching 4 quarters of basically nothing.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
I mean, me is that I don't have to stand there for 3 hours and say so and so is bouncing the ball, 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 bouncing the ball. That's it. That was the gist of the program. And I told Jesse, let's go out and get a hamburger and come back, and nothing's going to happen. We were joking about that.
I think you probably could have said right about the middle of the third quarter, said, you know what, we'll be back in about
2 hours.
We'll be back in 12 minutes, and I'll give you the final score because it's not going to be much more than what it is now.
But, that sort of thing. But, there's still a lot of hope for both teams, and they'll hopefully will try to get a big win at Dunlap against Sequatchie County in a District 2 matchup. And, of course, football news, of course, a lot of the football players reached all state, all region. Bledsoe finished number 7 in the final polls, by the way, so 11-2 is not a bad record. I talked to the coaches, and that they're pretty much sorting their quarterbacks to be better because they have to replace it. And I think the leading candidate was the backup, the freshman Luke Morris, the backup freshman, and he is right now the leading candidate in here. But they're indicating that they'll do.
I got the privilege to know he and his dad and his family very well. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I mentioned when I was out there at church with them. I looked at him and kind of looked him in the eye and said, well, you're QB1 now, so you better be stepping it up. Mm-hmm. And I can just tell that his dad's not going to let him just ease into it. He said he made it very clear that day that he is going to have to earn that position and get better and grow, and that's just the nature of the beast.
I'm sure Coach Tabor probably told all those quarterbacks, you're gonna have to earn it. And
because right now it's up for grabs. I mean, there's no set in stone. I mean, obviously you think traditionally it would go to whoever the backup was, but you've got a freshman quarterback, another one coming in, someone who might step over and play a different position. I mean, so right now the position is wide open to be QB1, but in all likelihood it will probably go to Luke Morris. But he's definitely going to have to step up to be able to get the team to play at the caliber it played the last few years. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him.
I was talking to Jackson Real last night. He's one of the players on the football team, and I know his mother quite well. And he's selling donuts, trying to sell me donuts. And he's trying to raise money for a junior prom. And I said to the junior, and he's actually put on some weight. He's actually put on some mass. So I told him, look, if you concentrate half on your football ability, on your selling donuts, you might be first team. He said, what do you mean? I said, I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna be the hardest hitter on this team. It's a great way to motivate somebody.
Well, sure.
Motivate it. Made it there. Of course, he smiled at the same time because he knows I'm joking.
That's one place that we're going to be. Kind of a concern for us is not just the quarterback position, but the offensive defensive front. Lost a lot of good players off of that.
Oh yeah.
Specifically, not to take anything away from the other players, but Zach Brugner. I really like to watch him play. I like to watch them all play, but there was something about him playing out there. I mean, when I watched them double team and triple team him and he's still getting in the backfield, I said something special about this kid.
Yeah.
And not sure what his decision on future is going to be, but he does have some offers from colleges. Tulane was one of them.
Yeah. Tulane's a good place to go to.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what he does, but will we have those guys? We still got some size. I mean, the juniors and sophomores that were playing in and out last year still got some size, but we're going to have to get more size. It's not necessarily the ones who will be stepping up, but the depth is what's going to be concerning to me. So we're going to have to really work on that offensive defensive line, and I know that Coach Tabor and the gang is going to have those guys ready to go, putting the best guys on the field to play. But it's going to be interesting when we play Sequatchie first game of the season at Sequatchie. And I've got games that are circled on my schedule with Sequatchie County, then playing at York at home. Sorry.
Home.
And then we have at Marion County, and then Monterey at home. Last time we played Monterey, things got a little snippy out on the field, not just between the players, but coaches too, and rightfully so. I have to say that normally I I try to be a voice of reason in those situations, but when you have coaches yelling at players, I do not blame Coach Tabor and his crew for stepping up and saying, you're going to have to go through us before you get to them, and that's the situation that we had in Monterey a few years ago. So it's going to be interesting. Maybe the bad blood is washed out, so to speak. But
I think
we hope
that sort of thing. I think Monterey's always sort of played a little bit of chip on the shoulder. It's looking like that little bitty school or whatever, and that because they of course got Cumberland County, got Stone Memorial, and that sort of thing, and of course very interesting. Bledsoe really has, since Coach Tabor has come on, has been remarkably consistently successful, unlike the previous coach. I'm not knocking the other coaches, mind you, because they go in there, but Coach Tabor goes for the long ball. He goes for the long range. He said, I'm not just building for just 1 or 2 years down, or I'm building for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Sure. And that's what successful coaches do. And that's how you look like at Tyner. They had that coach for 30 years, and he shows their thing, and and their of course they won a lot. Marion County, Colquitt.
Wayne Turner at Tyner. I mean, he built that program into what it is. I mean, it's one of those things that you always look at when I played, they always had this season outlook when they go in and Chattanooga Times Free Press. Now they have their own little section, but back then it was just in the sports section because it wasn't that big. Right. And it was playoff chances. Yeah. And I remember very vividly looking at Tyner, and it says playoff chances. Everybody else says good, great, very good, decent. But when it got to Tyner, it said, as long as the sun continues to rise. And that's just the way it was in the mid-'90s all the way through the mid-2000s. I mean,
same with South Pittsburgh.
That's just the way Tyner was a powerhouse. And Wayne Turner built that program with that kind of mindset of, I'm preparing for, not just next year, I'm preparing for 3 years out.
Right.
And players respond to coaching styles like that, because they know that they're having a hand in not just winning a ball game and thumping their chest that they either beat their rival or went to the playoffs, but they have their hand knowing that they, in essence, helped to build a dynasty, and players respond to that. And Bledsoe County is no different. I mean, it's the same situation with other programs, not just football, but there is the players. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's just the way that things are in this county right now. The players want to win. They're used to winning now. Yep. They go out there. The softballs come up. Volleyball is really good. The basketball is growing. Football is one of the top-notch programs in the area. I mean, so across the board, Bledsoe County sports is in a really good place, because the dynamic that exists with one team is spilling over into the other. And I would have to say that Bledsoe County football, it very, very, very likely borrowed from the success of the softball team several years ago, because they were going to state tournaments and they were performing very well, winning the regions, winning districts, and everything was all great. And there was an aura about that everybody wanted to have that same thing on their team. So Bledsoe County football kind of stepped it up, and they started playing good ball too. And then Coach Tabor comes in and he makes things even better. So I mean, there's a lot going on, and again, each program borrows from the other, which is why you go to the basketball games, you see a lot of the football players there. Right. Supporting them. Go to the other sporting events, you see people from other sports there supporting that, and that's a community effort, and that's what it takes. And it's not just football; it's across the board. Bledsoe County sports are in a really good place right now.
You remember DeMonte Bolden? Okay, first time I met him, he was still playing for Tyner. Okay, he bring it in, and he was not playing the game with Bledsoe County, and they were down here at Pikeville, and for some reason he had something about his academics, something like that they had suspended for a game, and he comes in there and one of the coaches, I'd like you to meet DeMonte Bolden, That's our biggest player I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this is huge. He blocks out the mountains. He's that big. And I said, Lord, you're big. What's your mama feed you? He laughed. Well, of course, after his playing career at UT, he comes back to Bolton, and I talked to him, and I introduced you to him.
Yeah, he was in the press box.
Yeah, he was introduced. He's he's a very intelligent man. Very intelligent, very easy to get along with, and all that, and like that. And he said that he was looking forward to when they build a new football facility. Of course, him from the infamous Typhoon.
I think all of Tyner is glad to see the new football field.
They're building on the old football field, and then when they finish building that building there, they're gonna build the football field where the old building was. So it's like that. But remember Typhoon Tyner?
I do.
From Miss Typhoon Tyner. That was hilarious. I mean, like this, it's raining and all this, and I've got the papers where I was jotting figures down. It had literally washed the ink right off the paper. What is that? The lady offered you an umbrella?
And I mean, of course, I'm a big guy, but I was a lot bigger then than I am now. And he was already wet. I was already soaked. And Suzanne Boynton, former, she offered me a
little
umbrella, and to her it would be fine, but to me it was tiny. It looked like one of those little umbrellas.
It looks like some little umbrellas that you see in those drinks.
Yeah, it's like the hats you wear that's like this big around. And I was sitting here like this. My head was not getting wet, but the rest of me was. And I just finally handed it back to her, and I said, I appreciate it, but it ain't doing me no good now.
Oh, I tell you something, when that lightning bolt struck, I said, that stands part of like the Red Sea.
Everybody was out of there.
like a fire drill.
And I can remember, I was parked on top of the hill, and I had to walk up and around and then across from behind the bleachers, behind the home stands, all the way over to the middle school across the street. That's where I was parked, at elementary one. And I can remember wading through water over ankle deep, and I was like, golly bum, it is doing some raining over here.
Oh, but Mel had his truck parked about 50 feet away from the press box in the parking area. I never seen anybody his age run so fast. He was going into it, and that sort of thing. And it was really funny. We called it Typhoon Tyner. Anyway, it was real funny. But I'll tell you something right now. We got a lot of things going on here this week. Of course, Sequatchie County Friday night, and then, of course, the remainder of the season. So when we come back, we'll start talking about the college basketball season. The college football season was just concluded with a national champion. And the SEC in bowl games and postseason plays as you're watching the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. And while you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. So what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Okay, everybody, we're back, and we're going to talk a little about college sports. Basketball, football season just completed. A national champion has been crowned, and of course, it's not the Tennessee Volunteers. The first thing out of the University of Tennessee, they have announced Mike Keith will be the new voice of the Vols, starting in the football season when they open up against Syracuse in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. He, of course, was the voice of the Tennessee Titans, and he proceeds to retiring Bob Kessling, who is stepping down after the basketball season. So basically, of course, Mike Keith was hired by John Ward, so he had. Now the story about is that Mike Keith, when he started out, he was the studio host. He comes and says, I said, next week Tennessee plays at Neyland Stadium, and he thought he's doing good. Then he hears the speaker go on, Mike Keith, this is John Ward. It's Neyland Stadium, because that's how it is. Because when John Ward asked Neyland how he pronounced his name, Neyland, knee like your knee, Neyland Stadium. So it's Neyland. I used to say it's Neyland Stadium until somebody told me it was Neyland Stadium. So that's how it is. So Mike Keith will be the new voice of the Vols, and obviously, good choice. I thought he would get the job. I thought he would want it.
I kind of had it in mind that he would be the one to take the reins.
John Wilkerson was another possibility, and they were going to go after. Okay, college football, of course, national champion has been crowned, and that is the Ohio State Buckeyes.
I'm glad you said that, because I didn't want it to come out of my mouth.
Yeah,
I knew it'd leave a bad taste.
I have a running battle with somebody who's an Ohio State Buckeye fan, and he sort of score and all that, and I say, well, Eddie George is at Tennessee State right now. He'll freak him out, because you like, Eddie George, the Ohio State, the national man. And I said Bill Duff versus Eddie George. He would just drive him crazy. He would drive him crazy and all that. But of course, Ohio State, they lost to Michigan, and everybody wanted. They hung out from the yard arm. But now I don't think they're complaining now. He's never.
I tell you, when Ohio State lost to Michigan at last game of this original regular season, I mean, everybody and their brother thought the Ohio State would be flat. But man, that they woke up.
Yeah, they woke up.
And then everybody was thumping their chest, saying, "Oh yeah, Tennessee got the snot kicked out of them by Ohio State." Well. They're not really laughing now, because OSU went on to win the national title. So that made that loss look a little bit better to Tennessee.
It wasn't a bad loss.
We should have played better, don't get me wrong. I mean, it was a very lopsided loss, 42-17. But still, I mean, they were the Ohio State. They did. I said that, made the comment, if Ohio State plays the rest of the playoffs the way they played against Tennessee, they'll win. Absolutely. And here we are. I mean, OSU's hoisting the trophy. Coach Day's job is safe, and
at least for this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but the thing about it is that now, first off, I'm not knocking the Ohio State fans. They're good eggs. I know a lot of them are good eggs. It was the Ohio State administration who seemed to think that selling a ticket to a Tennessee fan was sacred. Of course, Ohio State was only required to sell 3,500 tickets, and most of that was taken up by the band, family members, that sort of thing. It was only left 1,000 tickets, and they told Ohio State fans, don't sell tickets to Tennessee fans. And somehow some Tennessee fans got smart and found the codes to order tickets. One guy said he photoshopped his face on a fan wearing an Ohio State ticket, and he lied his way in getting tickets for that sort of thing. And 35,000 Tennessee fans showed up in the freezing cold, which is really something that tells Ohio State and the Big Ten, hey, don't ever knock an SEC team's fans because they will bite you every which way.
There was a thought that they were going to try to checker the shoe, and that was a good thought. But there was 15,000 fans tickets that were sold.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of orange there. Yeah. But the thing that the Ohio State faithful were just so amazed about is Tennessee Volunteer fans took over.
Yeah, they took over that stadium.
Not just the surrounding the stadium, but the entire city of Columbus. They took over. They said the bars were all orange.
Yeah.
All the restaurants were all orange. People on the streets all orange. They said it was amazing. The following they had, people from Tennessee, the fans, that didn't even get to the ball game. They didn't even get into the stadium. Yeah. They still went up there just to be there.
Yeah. And
they said it was just amazing to see the following they had because they'd never seen that before.
Yeah.
And the people that I'd talked to that were there were just, completely blown away. We're talking about Ohio State fans that were completely blown away by the fact that basically the Tennessee Volunteer Orange invaded that community and took it over. During that weekend. So
one of them people I know is an Ohio State fan. He said he watched Tennessee and Alabama a few years ago on TV when Tennessee snapped that streak against them, and he said he was amazed by the amount of this. I said Ohio State for some reason could never generate that type of thing there in that sort of thing. But he said Tennessee fans were polite. They weren't there to rip people apart. Or Ohio State fans, they were very polite about it, and they said simply, the matter is, he said he's well aware of what the administration was doing, and he said simply is that they said they should have tried that stunt.
And if they hadn't have done that, it might not have been that way. Yeah. But when it got word out that they were trying to limit the amount of people, boy, the orange wave just came alive.
Yeah, you don't put the red flag down in front of the orange bull because the orange bull's going to run you over.
Exactly right.
And it would have been worse had Tennessee beaten Ohio State. It would have been worse. And of course they went down to the Rose Bowl and beat Oregon, and I think they beat Texas, and then
we might lose the ball game, but you're definitely going to know we were there. Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it was, and that's kind of the idea back when we played football. When Dickie Brown was here, you never we didn't win that much, but you knew we were there after that Friday night because when those teams got up Saturday morning, they were a little gingerly getting out of the bed because they'd been hit. We laid the wood to them, but that's just the way it was. That was the way Bledsoe County played football.
They had this thing, the Sequatchie County game last year. Remember how that was? It was like an overflow crowd. You see the cars parked out in the roads and that sort of thing. And now normally I'd be out like 10 minutes after a game. 45 minutes. 45. I think the estimation was some people said about close to 7,000 were in that 2,000 seat stadium. And that tells you how it was. Because partially due that John Boynton was being honored that night. Right. The fact of the matter is Sequatchie County and that sort of thing. And I was wonderful that Bledsoe won that to give the game ball to John Boynton after the game and that sort of thing. And really that tells you what a great season it was. Unfortunately, if Bledsoe County somehow had managed to get past York Institute, and I was afraid they were going to do the I'm going to forgot to call the referee bid again. And I don't really understand it. But anyway,
I'm telling you, of all the things, I know we were talking about college football, but of all the things going back this past year that did not make one bit of sense to me is why in the world they let, and I've had plenty of time to think about this. At first I was trying to justify things. First I was trying to say, well, maybe I've had some time now, Mike. I've had some time to really get down and cipher this out, and there is absolutely
why don't you tell us?
No excuse for a school system to allow a visiting school system to travel an hour and a half.
And then
and not know for sure that you did not have referees. There is no reason whatsoever.
Wow.
And again, I understand they posted it or didn't post. I understand they got messages saying that the game was took care of. I get that. By and by, amen and amen.
Yeah.
I understand that. But the buck stopped with the host team. And if they did not have it in line
Yeah.
and did not have everything in order, there is no way they should have allowed Bledsoe County to go up there that Thursday night. And I know why they did it. I mean, we all know why they did it. I mean, the writing is on the wall. It's in black and white.
Yeah,
We know exactly why they did it. And if we'd have played, and I will go to my grave saying this. I know York beat us that following Friday night. I know York beat us in the playoffs. But I will go to my grave saying if Bledsoe County had played York that Thursday night, Bledsoe County would have beat York at Jamestown. That's just the way I feel, and I honestly believe that it was.
I think maybe you should do that next year. They got to come down here. I mean, say, we forgot to call the referees. You have to come back.
Yeah,
They're really freaking out. But anyway, let's talk about college football. Of course, national champions Ohio State versus 2014. Of course, the college football postseason didn't go very well for the SEC this year. Of course, I watched a few of them. Alabama, just basically gave the game away in the first quarter. Just turned the ball over 4 times. They like to stay in it. Vanderbilt, I thought, did an excellent job against Georgia Tech. Actually had a big lead on Georgia Tech. Then the weather delay rolled in, and Georgia Tech managed to pull close, but not enough yet. I think Vanderbilt. 7-6. That was a good season.
That's very respectful for Vandy, and especially beating Alabama and almost beating Texas.
They dominated Alabama. They didn't just beat them. They horsewhipped them.
Yeah,
and that sort of thing. Of course, they beat Auburn at Auburn for the first time. They beat Kentucky and Lexington, which is not an easy place to win, and that sort of thing. And of course, a lot of things. Florida, which everybody thought that their coach was going to be handing out the door, had a late season surge and ended up winning 8 games and won over Tulane. And of course, a lot of things. Texas, they got into the third round, but didn't. I always say Texas is, I always used to drove me crazy how these Texas fans thought they were going to run the SEC, that they wanted to move the SEC championship game to Dallas. They wanted to move the SEC headquarters from Birmingham to Dallas. And I said, and somebody told me, this is the SEC. This is not the Southwest Conference.
Yeah.
This is not the Southwest Conference. This is not the Big 12. This is the SEC. You got to play by the rules. As Archie Manning told Texas fans, you're in the big boy leagues now. We don't play by your rules. See, the reason why Texas, when they applied for membership in the old Pac-12, was they didn't get in because they were told to get rid of the Longhorn Network, and they wouldn't do it. Yeah. And they had to get rid of the Longhorn Network because that was one of the deals to go into the SEC. So right now you look at Oklahoma, didn't do very well this season, but they did have a big win over Alabama, and that sort of thing. But they didn't really do it. Of course, their old quarterback came in and beat them in Norman, Josh Heupel, and that sort of thing. So to be looking at it this way right now, you got to look at it this way. People say, well, the SEC is irrelevant. Wrong. They're a little down. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. And that sort of thing. And as a result...
A lot of the reason that is, I mean, the negatives of the transfer portal does not outweigh... I mean, the positives of the transfer portal does not outweigh the negatives in my mind. I mean, because Tennessee's lost their share of decent players who were going to do very good things this next coming season. Squirrel White, one of the fan favorites at receiver, he transferred to FSU. Nate Spillman, Chase Nimrod, the wide receiver core just kind of dispersed at the end of the season. Mike Matthews did enter the portal, but decided to stay at Tennessee. Right. And we did pick up that Amari Jefferson out of Alabama. Transfer from Alabama, so he and Mike Matthews are going to be the premier targets this year for Nico, and the whole thought of the transfer portal in of itself is good.
Yeah. But
you see what it has done to college football is it has drastically evened competition.
Well, we see what it is. The NCAA now, of course, coaches have voted to have, instead of having 2 or 3 transfer portals open, only have one. And that's from January 2nd to January 12th. You have 10 days to that. Otherwise, it's closed. See, what it is that when they had that transfer portal prior to the bowl games, 24 players from Marshall transferred with the coach. And what happened was Marshall had to give up going to the bowl. And that hurt the school. It hurt because it really is that these players, well, I'm going to go where the coach goes, not to the school. You used to have players. You look at Arch Manning. Okay, there was rumors he was going to Ole Miss or North Carolina or Tennessee or any other place, and I think what it is, his grandfather and his uncles basically told me, you signed with Texas, you're going to stay at Texas. You are committed. That's how Peyton was always told. His father told him, he said, you signed up to do something. Remember, in high school, he signed up as a dance course. He thought it was an easy way. When he found out that he had to dance in front of a whole bunch of students, wanted to back out. And his father said, oh, no, you sign up for this and you're going to do it.
Well, the whole thought process and just the way you handle things back then was a lot different than it is now. I mean, those are considered old-fashioned values that a lot of us still hold true to, especially here in this rural area of Tennessee. But when you get into the stage like that, that's just almost all but forgotten. But I still want to teach the people that my children, when the Lord willing, I have some of those someday, to stand by their word, and that's really what it is. With the transfer portal, it's basically free agency.
Used to before the NCAA came along, is that you would have players who would transfer 4 or 5 schools. Would be sort of traveling on who would pay you more or whatever and all that. And then the NCAA for years put an end to that. The good
news is for Tennessee, Mike Matthews stayed.
Yeah.
Boo Carter stayed. We did get an Arizona guard, Wendell Moore. We got Sam Pendleton from Notre Dame, big guard. So we're going to have. So we got some guys coming in the line to fill those gaps, and we got the receivers that hopefully will step up. The ones that are left, and we did lose Squirrel White. We did lose Spillman. We did lose Nimrod. We did lose the backup quarterback, Gaston Moore. But but we've got guys that are still coming back, and that's the case not just with Tennessee but across the board. You've got people who are fan favorites. Guys that are fan favorites are tuck tail and run over $400,000 to $1 million, and change their jersey colors. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's the creature that we have created now in college sports and college athletics.
Joe Namath, who was a great quarterback at the University of Alabama, and then was with the New York Jets. New York Jets wanted to sign him. Back then they could do that. They could sign a certain player before the NFL draft. And it was Joe Namath. And Coach Burr Bryant told us, do not accept so much as a Coke from the Jets. Don't sign anything until after that game because you'll be ineligible. And the kind of thing. And after the game, after he got the Orange, they took him into the room. He signed a contract, $465,000 a year, and that was the highest paid player in NFL history. And you know what the New York Jets owner said when he watched Wayne Namath came within inches of winning the game for Alabama against Texas in the Orange Bowl? He said, "I'm not paying that boy enough." I said, "He's worth more than I'm paying him." Mm-hmm. He said, "That's all there is to it," and that sort of thing. And of course, now basketball, of course, is front and center now. Of course, there is one more college game. I believe that's the Senior Bowl. I think is being played tomorrow night. Anyway, but the only one Tennessee player has been invited to that. Really shameful. Real shameful. Only one Tennessee player and everybody else gets in that.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, basketball. Tennessee basketball team started out 14-0. They were number 1 in the nation. Mm-hmm. Okay, then they lost to Florida by 30 at Florida. Got in there and they lost to Kentucky for their 4th loss of the season. Did Tennessee basketball peak too early? Did they peak too early?
I don't think so. And the reason I think losing, and to understand this, you have to be a sports fan. But losing certain games might be the best thing that happened to Tennessee, because number one, they were number one in the nation. They were undefeated. They were on top of the world. And one thing that losing ball games obviously will do is humble you. So, and I'm not saying that Tennessee was out there thumping their chest like they were all that in the bag of chips, but what I am saying is that will cause you to refocus. And right now, that's where Tennessee is. After losing to Kentucky last night, what was it, 78-73?
Yeah, it was a 5-point
So,
game.
I mean, you have to refocus, you have to realign, and I think that's one thing that Coach Barnes is very masterful at doing, and getting the team, back where they need to be mentally to continue the rest of this season. There's a few more games left. I mean, we're looking, 12 games or so left.
Yeah.
Then the SEC tournament, which is going to be hard in and of itself because you've got Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, Ole Miss. I mean, how many teams do you have that are ranked right now, not counting Tennessee, in the top 25? So the competition in the basketball level is through the roof for the SEC. So I think it's good for Tennessee to lose those games. And I'm not saying that I want them to lose. I'm just saying it's good for them to lose right now, because I'd much rather them get those losses out of their system right now than to get those losses in their system coming to the SEC tournament and then March Madness. I'd rather them lose now.
Tennessee wants a double bye. That's the important thing. They want the top. I think it was the top 4 teams get double byes. If I'm going by the system from last year. And of course, double byes are interesting because basically is that you're going to come up with a team. A few years ago, I was watching this documentary on the 2008 SEC tournament game. They played at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta, and they had the tornadoes down there, as you remember. And they were playing a game in there when the tornadoes struck. Now, it went into overtime. Now, that was fortuitous. It was Alabama and Mississippi State. It was fortuitous because had that ended on regulation, the fans would have been out there in that parking area when that tornado hit. By being in there, it saved their lives.
Yeah,
so that's sort of, and the Georgia Dome was so damaged they could not do it. Where to play it? Well, they had a number of options. Either declare the SEC East and West as co-champs and get the NCAA tournament, which was one option. The other option was to play on Monday, which they couldn't do because the NCAA makes the pairings on Sunday afternoon. That you couldn't do that. So the NCAA said you're going to have to come out there. Georgia Tech came out and said, use our facilities. We'll open the doors and let you use the facilities. Georgia Tech was an SEC member. And, Georgia and Georgia Tech didn't like that. Well, what it was, they said, they could only put a few, it wasn't the Georgia Dome, so they could only invite 400 fans from each team that was playing in that particular game, which sort of ticked off the vast multitude of fans. But there's nothing you could do about it.
Right.
And that was a game where Georgia played twice that day because they had to compress it. And what happens, Georgia, who finished last in the SEC, won the tournament.
Yeah.
And they played 5 games in 4 days and won the tournament. Can you believe that? They were actually sticking the IVs into these players between games to hydrate them. That was crazy. That was absolutely crazy.
Thankfully now they've allotted time in between games to be able to move things around a little bit, so you're not, bound to play boom, boom, boom. You have a little wiggle room.
They had a situation where they really had no choice. They had to get it in, and that sort of thing. And that was like, it was just one of those crazy deals. But of course, there's a lot of basketball left to be played. There's still a lot of a lot of things happening here, and that sort of thing. We also want to announce the Orange and White Spring Game, which is going to be played on April 12th. They're just going to come up the time and if they charge an admission, they did last year, and how many people will be allowed in the stadium. I hope there are more than 10,000 people in that stadium, because basically it ticks me off. Ticks me off to no end. I remember when they played at Old Chamberlain Field when they were they were putting natural grass down on the field, and there was a 10,000 seat stadium. Let's just put it this way: Old Greason Field was in better shape than the old Chamberlain Field. If you ever watch the game from that, it's like, wow.
Yeah. Well, before we move on from the men's basketball, the Lady Vols,
of course, yeah, Caldwell
have came back up. Caldwell is a mother, had a child a couple of weeks ago, and is doing well now. And I reckon the baby's doing good too. But Tennessee Lady Vols are back in the top 25. They're winning ball games. And the interesting thing about that is, they're losing 1 to 2 point games against Oklahoma, LSU, and even Vanderbilt.
And South Carolina lost to South Carolina.
4 points separated them from Texas. 7 points separated them from South Carolina. We're talking competition with top 10 teams across the board, and the Lady Vols are right there neck and neck with them. 1 to 7 points, separates a loss and a victory.
Yeah.
With all those top teams. So that goes to show you that the fast-paced offense that Coach Caldwell has introduced is running those teams to death. And Tennessee is having success. If they're hitting the 3 ball, and if they're on, mind you, they played NC Central and scored 139 points.
Yeah. Broke
the most points, most 3 points, and most 3 points by a single player in one game. So, I mean, it's she's got them going in the right direction. And I think a lot of the Lady Vol faithful are starting to get on board. I think a lot of them were upset. Even some of them still holding grudges back to the old Holly Warwick thing. And then when they got, Kelly Harper, everybody's like, well, they tried to give her a chance and they got rid of her. And everybody's kind of sore about it. But now I think they're starting to see a little success here that they want to get on board with. So the Lady Vol faithful is coming out of the woodwork now. And I like to see that being returned to its prominence, especially with the history that we have with Coach Summit, and a lot of similarities with how she is playing with those girls the way that Pat Summit did.
Yeah, well, the thing about Pat, the Pat Summit, when Pat Summit, well, in the last couple of years of her tenure, she was suffering from the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's, and Holly Warwick basically had to coach that team last year because really she couldn't do that. Now, Holly Warwick was a good coach. As used to say, some can recruit but can't coach, but some can coach but can't recruit. And I think Holly Warwick's problem was that she could coach but she couldn't recruit. Mm-hmm. And then of course they bring in Jolly, and who played under Pat Summit, and it just didn't really work out for her because I think she did win. But I think basically is that she somehow could never get them to connect on the court.
The best thing that Tennessee could have done, and this is credit to the administration, is to hire outside of the family.
Yeah.
And what of course everybody should know what they mean by that, because Holly Warwick, she played at UT, she coached under Pat Summit. Kelly Jolly Harper played at UT under Pat Summit. So they wanted to kind of keep that tradition alive by keep hiring in-house or hiring inside the Tennessee family. And I think they're starting to see the benefits now of hiring outside, because even though Caldwell she's young and she, idolized Pat Summit for the things that she did, she didn't play under that shadow. Nor did she coach under that shadow.
That's the way you do.
So coming in, she has a fresh aspect, a fresh, outlook. Here's where I am. Here's what I am willing to do. And even though, yes, Pat Summit accomplished great things, she is a legendary coach, and there's never going to be another one. She says, I can do it my way here. And I think that was one of the best things that Tennessee basketball could have done for Lady Vols, is to hire outside of the Tennessee family. And you see, it's so far it's been successful.
Yeah, you look at Tennessee football. If you look at a little bit of the history lesson, back in the 1960s, Tennessee football was down. Mm-hmm. They had Bowden White, who was still running single wing, and they didn't have the people to do it with. And they told him you got to switch to the T or to the I formation. And they lost 2 good quarterbacks in the state of Tennessee. That's Steve Spurrier and Steve Sloan. Mm-hmm. Okay, they went to Florida and Alabama. Okay, so they fired him because of a number of situations, and they fired him, and they put Jim McDonald in as an interim coach. Too late in the season for him to put anything in, because he had to use the coaches he had, and he didn't really want, and they barely broke even. Okay, well, what it was is that everybody realized there's going to have a new coach. Okay, some people. So Bob Woodruff, who became the athletic director, was a Tennessee man. He played for Neyland. They sent him up to Minnesota to talk to Murray Warmoth, who was a Tennessee grad, played under Neyland in the 30s, and he was having great success in Minnesota, winning national titles, the Big Ten titles. They said, we'll give you $25,000 a year. You can be athletic director and head coach. Warren Warmoth said, no, not going to do it, because he knew what the deal was down there at Tennessee. Okay, so at the end of the season, they're arguing how are we going to get this head coach in here? Someone said, go to Bob Woodruff. He knows coaches. Let's go out and get him. Okay, so he knows who he wants. An assistant coach at Arkansas named Doug Dickey. He tells Doug Dickey, come to Knoxville, come discreetly. That didn't work because a reporter got wind that Dickey was on his way to Knoxville by train. And he goes in there, and Woodruff takes Dickey to see Andy Holt, who's the UT president. And Andy Holt asked him, do you drink or anything? Because they had problems with Bowden White on that deal. He said, no, don't drink. It's all that. He said, what are you going to do about the situation? I said, recruit in state, because that's where you get your talent. And I would say, get rid of the single wing, go to I formation. That's exactly what did it. And Dickey. And the story was that Jim McDonald, who was the interim head coach, they're bumping him up to assistant athletic director. He said, you don't know who these people are, so I'm going to show you where we're recruiting. He goes down there. He goes to Cleveland, sees Bob Johnson, a big lineman, signs with Tennessee. Then he goes to Pikeville and sees John Boyden, big tackle. That he signs with Tennessee. And I said, and Doug Dickey said, the first two people I see, the biggest guys he's never seen anything like that at Arkansas or at Florida. He said, the first two guys I see look like that, I'm going to have the easiest job in the world. And a result. Woodruff went outside the UT family and hired a coach and won 46 games and 2 SEC and a national title. And that sort of thing. And the same thing with Bill Battle. When he hired Bill Battle, they said, well, Battle was an assistant on the coach. He was 28 years old. And they said, we got 3 guys here who are going to be potential head coach. I said, could you work with him? And Battle said, yeah, I could work with him. I could be offensive coordinator or whatever. Because Woodruff wanted to keep them together. Okay. What happens? Bang. He picks Battle. Because he liked the style of way he was coaching. Some people wanted Majors, who was at Iowa State. But Majors, but Woodruff, they said we'd have to fire Woodruff, and we don't want to do that because he knew how to pick them, and that's how he got Battle. But that sort of thing. You look at Alabama, Bear Bryant. Then he had Ray Perkins, Alabama grad, played under Bryant, didn't do very well because he couldn't handle it. Then Bill Curry went to Georgia Tech. Oh, that was a no-no because people, you don't pick a coach from Georgia Tech to be head coach. And Gene Stallings, who was an Alabama, and they went through that. How many 10 coaches in 25 years? And what did they do? They go out of the family. They pick Nick Saban. Bang, 6 national titles. So it works that way. So sometimes you have to go outside the family to get the results.
Sometimes you do.
So because what it is, because you're not always going to pick the ones that are always going to make it. That's the way it is. Okay, everybody, when we come back, we're going to talk about pro football. The Super Bowl teams have been set, and we're also going to talk about Bob Uecker, the Mr. Baseball, who died recently at age 90. And of course, I love Bob Uecker, even though I'm not a big baseball fan. And so we'll be back as you're watching the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. So what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. And while you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
Okay, we're back. Of course, we're going to talk a little pro football as, of course, the Super Bowl teams are set. And that will be the Washington...
That's going to be...
I'm
still on the radio.
Yeah.
God, that scared me.
I usually put that thing on mute, but I didn't that time, and that sort of thing.
All right.
So anyway, let's get back to the lighter side of things.
The Chiefs and the Eagles are playing in the Super Bowl this year.
And if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, it'll be the first NFL team to win a three straight Super Bowls.
Yes.
3 straight Super Bowls. Closest game was Baltimore Colts, but they lost to the New York Jets in Super Bowl III. You know, the story about Joe Namath on that was that he was having one of those press conferences prior to the game, and somebody yelled out of the crowd, a Colts fan, say, "We're going to whip you guys," because time that it was NFL AFL.
Mm-hmm.
They were merging and all that. And I think the story was that Namath sort of looked at the guy and says, "We're going to beat you guys, period." He actually was telling his team that, but supposedly he said that publicly.
Yeah.
It's not actually known that he actually said that or not, but publicly. But he did win 16-7, one of the great upsets in Super Bowl history. And of course, that will be February 9th, and that will be an interesting game. In fact, the Eagles and the Chiefs met 2 years ago, and the Chiefs won by quite a bit. Of course, Bledsoe's helmets have the logo, Arrowhead logo.
I think everybody was pulling for the Lions and the Bills this year. At least I was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people I know were pulling for them, and I kind of thought the Lions would show better. But hey, they made the playoffs and had a good season. The Bills, probably, in all honesty, probably should have beat the Chiefs. But things don't go certain ways when certain people don't want it to go certain ways. So. And there's so much going on with that. People thinking that the Chiefs and stuff it's scripted and rigged and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I don't buy it all completely because it's just not feasible to do that. But football is definitely not what it used to be. But I can tell you, Kansas City's going to have their hands full with Philadelphia.
Absolutely,
I think it's going to be a good game. They got Barkley at running back, who could have broke the record this year. Mm-hmm. Jalen Hurts, they got A.J. Brown, they got a lot of good guys that can spread the field and make some things happen. So Mahomes and company is going to have their hands full. I can tell you that when they get when they play the Eagles, it's going to be a good game.
And that's very, very interesting. And of course, the Bills are the team that was 0-5 Super Bowls. So basically, is that they it may have been a blessing for them not to be in that. But anyway, it'll be an interesting game. Reggie White was a legendary Eagles player,
Mm-hmm.
and won a Super Bowl, so not bad. Anyway, but that'll be it. Of course, it'll be February the 9th. Very interesting way to end the NFL season here. Of course, we want to note a little sadness of a baseball legend. Bob Uecker, Mr. Baseball. And how did he get the name Mr. Baseball? Well, it was Johnny Carson who did that. Johnny, he was on the show. And Bob Uecker's not more known for his post-baseball career than for his baseball career. He was a catcher. He couldn't hit a lick. And he was actually voted 8 times a comeback player of the year. And he was also known as the DH, designated heckler. So basically what he would do, he would heckle the umpires until the umpires got so tired of him heckling them, off to the showers. And said he got thrown out of more games than he actually played in. So he used to say that. But he was known for his self-depreciating humor. He would come on to Tonight Show or whatever, and he would tell stories, that sort of thing. Like he told a story about a guy he used to play in minor league baseball called Rufus Big Train Johnson. Big guy, muscular guy, didn't have too many IQ points backing it up. And they used to play in these little bitty baseball stadiums where the lights would go off at night. And so while they're fixing the lights, Johnson was on first base. So he figured with the lights off, why not move to second base and nobody would notice? When the lights came back on, the ump saw him, sent him back to first base. It was sort of thing. It was sort of that funny thing. And he also used to tell stories about how he knew when he was being traded. Is when he would go to the locker room after the game, and they would say, "I'm sorry, sir, but visitors are not allowed in the locker room." So he knew he was being traded. Yeah. He would have that thing. He used to have all these commercials, which was hilarious to watch. He would for Rust-Oleum spray paint. He would say, "Hey, I got spray paint." And someone says, "You're out of here, Uecker." Sort of like everybody, people would be heckling him. And then he would have the Bud Light commercials. He would go in there and he would be coming there "Oh, I'm the big thing. All I do is whip out the card, call the front office, and it's done. So here's my front seat." And he sits down there like this, and everybody's looking like him like he's weird. She probably is. And then the usher would come to him and say, "I'm sorry, sir. We need to show you to your seat." And it was way up in the nosebleed section where there was nobody up there but him. And he would talk about hey, this is the front seats, man, and all this, all that, and like that. Now, the story was that when he became the play-by-play announcer for Milwaukee Brewers, where he started his career out, he did play for Atlanta, for the Atlanta Braves.
I think a lot of people in my generation probably knows him from Major League Series.
Yeah, he was
1 and 2. He
had a phrase that's being used by baseball announcers today.
Just a bit outside.
Yes, bit outside. That was the one. And it would be watching him was watching this. It was the funniest part of the movie as far as I was concerned. Yeah. Originally, Cleveland Indians, who actually, by the way, started winning after that game, after that movie came out. So that sort of thing. Well, anyway, he played for the Atlanta Braves. He played for the St. Louis Cardinals and played for the Milwaukee Braves, or when they were in Atlanta, and then for the Brewers, and then became announcer for over 50 years. Now, what happened was they were tearing down the old stadium. So what it is, as a sort of a token of appreciation, they added him the seat that he sat on in those commercials. And it's it's one of those cheap wooden bench type seats, and all that, and he sort of gave a tear in his eye and all that, and he's going to say something witty. And he starts talking about how much he's appreciated and all that, and the seat. I believe it's at the baseball museum, the Hall of Fame in Canton. Where's it at? In Canton or something?
Cooperstown,
New York. I'm thinking NFL.
Canton is NFL. Canton, Ohio.
Cooperstown, New York, and I think you can see it today. And of course, he had to quit announcing a couple of years ago because of illness and age and that sort of. But he died at 90 last month. And of course, Bob Uecker was one of the few people that even if you weren't a baseball fan, you knew who he was. Because he was so self-depreciating about it. He actually had a comedy routine about baseball. If you ever watch it, it's hilarious. He also did a TV show, Mr. Belvedere. And that's, of course, a lot of people remember Mr. Belvedere and all that. And that's where I got some of my wit from, Mr. Belvedere.
That's probably why it's no longer on. Why it didn't last very long, did it?
It didn't last very long, but it was very fun. It was a very funny TV show, but that sort of thing. But, Bob Uecker, age 90, passed away. And, of course, the Milwaukee Brewers gave tribute the only way they could with a little self-depreciation. We couldn't find anybody cheap enough to work for Because he said, and Bob would surely appreciate that sort of thing. So, that tells you what sometimes you don't have to be a great athlete to really set yourself apart from the crowd.
That's true.
That's true. And of course, as a sports announcer, broadcasting announcer, I believe I set myself apart from the crowd any day.
Anyway, you definitely do that, Mike. You definitely do that. I'll give you that.
Hey,
you set yourself way apart from the crowd.
Somebody once told me they did a count of the number of blown plays I've done in football, and they said the average is about around 50 blown plays.
I was going to say, if they were keeping a tally, that's an awful lot of paper they're using because there's so many. But that's just part of the camaraderie around that, Mike, because I get to use that against you. And especially, the funniest thing to me in regards to calling football games with you is people will call me the week after the football game.
Yeah.
And they'll say, "What is wrong with that Smith guy?" And I say, I don't really know.
They did not.
And they say, we'll sit there and we'll listen to the game, and he'll call out a player and a number, and he said, then we'll hear you say who the player actually was, and then he'll say you were wrong and correct you, and then the PA will come over and say the person that you said, and then he will be like, oh yeah, it was so and so, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what I have to deal with. Yeah, that's
I
just the way
get calls
it is.
who's that crazy guy that keeps saying possum womp is a word?
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
A word like that. But of course, I have told you about the Arkansas bit, until the Arkansas
Well,
bit.
we're gonna not tell that. Back to baseball. Back to baseball.
Back to the lighter side
Had
of
a
things.
lot of free agency things going on this off season. The Braves, seemingly fan favorites, are dropping like flies. George Soler was traded to the Angels. Then Travis d'Arnaud, he was one of the fan favorites. He signed with the Angels. Starting pitcher Charlie Morton, he ended up 41 years old and ended up signing with the Baltimore Orioles. And Max Fried, the ace that Braves couldn't hold on to, he is now a Yankee. Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets really made a lot of strides this offseason, signing a lot of good players. The Yankees specifically, Paul Goldschmidt, St. Louis's beloved first baseman, he is now a Yankee. Cody Bellinger, he played for the Cubs, he is now a New York Yankee. And they also signed Max Fried. And they acquired closer Devin Williams from the Milwaukee Brewers. So they have reloaded even more an already stacked team. Los Angeles Dodgers making some strides as well, signing Blake Snell to already stacked pitching staff, and it's outrageous. Michael Conforto joined the Dodgers in the outfield. Big names going right there. Bledsoe County, Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves stepped up and finally signed Profar out of San Diego, and might be one of the most prolific, potentially, outfields in the league, with Acuna being healthy and Michael Harris at center and Profar at left field. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think the biggest thought on everybody's mind is, you got to mention Corbin Burns. He earned his keep with the Orioles last year. He's with the Diamondbacks this year.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that the baseball world is talking about is the Mets signing Juan Soto away from the Yankees for a record 15-year, $765 million contract. That is the record contract, the largest contract anybody has ever signed up until this point. And Juan Soto definitely better earn his keep.
He better.
With all of the transactions that have conspired over the course of a few months, November, December, January, and even continuing. The odds for the World Series are already out. Los Angeles Dodgers, the defending champs, they're up there, number 1.
Yeah.
The Yankees are number 2, the Mets are number 3, and the Braves come in at number 4. So there's still potential there for teams to flip and flop and make some strides. But your top four is, the Phillies and the Astros are right there with them too. So it's going to be interesting to see how the baseball plays out. Spring training will solidify those rosters and help bring people back. But the Braves I'm hoping that my Braves will sign a good starting pitcher, at least to balance out the rotation. Strider won't be back in opening day, so he's still recovering from elbow surgery, but he will be back this season. But you got to have somebody. I mean, the people that they were searching for kind of fell through the cracks and signed with other people, so they might get lucky. I thought they would sign Morton back for one more year, but he ends up going and play for the O's in Baltimore. And I can't fault him for that. I like the Orioles, I like the Braves, but I do not like the Yankees and the Mets.
Well, I'm going to tell you something right now. I think I'm going to go to Billy and ask for $765 million over the next 15 years to announce football games.
Well, I had the biggest contract until Juan Soto signed with the Mets.
Oh, Lord,
I had a 13-year, $750 million deal here with WAT.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it's really, with 700 of it guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's really.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to bite the bullet, and after my 6 years run out, I get through this halfway mark of my contract. Well, my agent would try to rework some things, and might even try to rework another play-by-play man to work with, because something's just got to be done.
Bradley, I'm sorry to say this, but the devil is blushing when you're lying like that. That's all there is to it.
The only thing that I can say is, now everyone knows, obviously in Bledsoe County, WAT, AM 1110, Little Giant, Sequatchie Valley. Now let's just put this out here. Every year, for several years, we've done this for how many years?
Yeah. You've done it with me for 15. I've done it for 25.
15 years. I would try to play one good prank on Mike every year.
Sure.
And I've missed that the last couple of years. But,
yeah, I'm sure you
but
have.
it was we would do something every year. I would do something to him every year just to prank him. And this was all the way back when Joyce Bounds. When Joyce Bounds on the radio station. And I told Mike one night at a football game that I received, now, WUAT, small market, AM 1110, Bledsoe County. And I told him that I got a $15,000 sign-on bonus for this season.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to believe that? Mike is going to believe that, because
I did not believe that.
Mike comes in to get his pay for the previous week and mentions that to Joyce. Joyce then calls me right next door here, and she says, "What is this? I hear about a $15,000 signing bonus." And she's dying laughing because she knows that I had pulled one on Mike, and I said, "Well, I told Mike that I did that just as a joke." And I said, "Did he come in there and ask you about it?" She said, "Yes, he just came here and asked me." Wasn't laughing,
Oh, come on.
No, she said, "Mike came in here and demanded that he get $15,000, and I busted out laughing. I thought it was the funniest thing.
I did not.
I thought it was the funniest thing.
Yeah, what you were doing the handstands when you had the ESPN joke
And
going
Joyce-
on, and I was really going.
Joyce said, "You really, really got him," and she was dying laughing. I mean, she was just cackling.
Yeah, I never said
And
that.
I thought
never
that was
said
the funniest thing. If you're looking for somebody to get a rise out of, this guy right here is the easiest one to get a rise out of. It doesn't matter what happens.
Well, I'll put you this right now. What about the ESPN bit? You had brought that ESPN guy in there, and I was going on about it. And you were sweating.
I want to save my stories one at a time. I just told one today. I'm going to save them for another time. But yeah, $15,000 now. And so, Billy, the bar has been set for you, for WAT and Warrior Football. $15,000 Mike's going to be wanting probably more from you since the inflation and things like that's going on.
I'm sure, and of course, talk about the Arkansas story. Let's talk about the Arkansas. No. We got to go through this.
No, we're not.
We were doing the game, and you went.
No. I'm telling you, we're not going to talk about that one. Not right here on TV. We're not going to do that.
But it was funny while it lasted.
It's funny for you. It's funny for you.
But
you know what? I don't care.
What about you? You looked underneath the chairs one week after because I thought I was going to have a movie trap.
Let me tell the story since I was the one that got the end of that one. We were playing at Grace Baptist Academy over in Chattanooga, and if you remember playing over there or have ever been over there for a football game, then you know that their field is the soccer, baseball, softball, football, water polo, badminton, tennis, kickball, gymnastics, airport, hair care, and tire center. Their field is it. That does everything.
The Bubba Jones field.
They have to pull in the bleachers for the visitors on the far side. Well, my cousin and I, now again, I'm not trying to be crude, so I'm not going to get very much detail, but we had some really hot chicken wings from Zaxby's, and it was like 114 degrees on the field that day. It was it was still summer.
It wasn't that hot.
It was hot. So I'm sitting over there on the visitor side, and I walked from North Carolina to get to the seat. So I'm already sweating profusely, and I get there and I start getting sick. So I asked Mike, I said, "Where is the restroom?" He said, "It's over there." So I walk back around the field, and I go over there to the school. I did not know that I could walk down so many hallways and turn right so many times and walk the equal distance. I mean, it's almost like that the schools, looking back, if I could look at an aerial view of the setup of that school, the hallways do this.
Yeah.
And right in the middle is a bathroom. So I finally got there, and I was sick. Of course, I came back out. I was still sweating profusely because I wasn't feeling well. It was 114 degrees, and I just walked from North Carolina to the seat, back to Arkansas to go to the bathroom, and then back. And when I sit down, now we're on a broadcast, and we're on tape delay at the time, and I still have the tape, so I know it happened. Contrary to what somebody else is saying that it didn't, I still have the tapes of that, and I have the tapes of the ESPN bit. But I come back and I sit down, and I'm just like, I'm exhausted. I'm not feeling well at all. And on the tape, my counterpart here had the bright idea to look at me and say, "Bradley's finally back from the bathroom." And he looks me right in the eye and he says, "What were you doing in there? You're sweating awful bad." What do you think? I mean, I'm not feeling well. I'm kind of down on my luck here for a second. And I wanted to look and be like, dude, give me a break. And see, again, you look at those things like that. My pranks are classy and fun, and his are tasteless and tacky. To go and I would never exploit. At the expense of a laugh, the misfortune.
Well, except the ESPN gag.
The misfortune of my comrade. I just would not do that. But it's not the same way with him. So that kind of catapulted me into doing a prank every single year. And I have, the last 2 years, I have slacked off. But get ready, because people... be watching, be waiting. I'm going to write a little thing called Warrior Football Memoirs. I'm working on the title. That's not, but I'm going to write out some things and pranks that I did to Mike over the past 15 years, and I'm going to sell it for $1 a copy. And I'm going to probably have $7 by the time this is all over with. And Mike is going to be the one to buy the $6 worth to hand them out to everybody, so that he can write in the back some things that either did or didn't happen and exaggerate things that probably didn't happen just so he can kind of one-up me. But stay tuned for that. You know, it might be on Amazon. You know, it might be on the Sequatchie River Talk. Or
Yeah, well, you were checking those chairs awfully carefully after that last prank you pulled.
Again, that's why I did that, because my pranks are classy and fun, and yours are tasteless and tacky. You know, like I didn't want to hurt. I didn't want to get hurt sitting on a chair that had a leg halfway broke that you would just deliberately put there for me. So yeah, you know, we have a lot of fun. We like to cut up and laugh, and we, you know, it may seem, if you're from the outside looking in, if you were to see us call a football game before and after the game,
sort of like the Desperate Housewives thing.
You would think that, I mean, we couldn't stand the sight of one another. but in all honesty, it's all in fun. That's part of the character. So understand that's just what we do.
That's why, you know, a lot of listeners like that. They like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, well, I'm just going to have to bring back the cowbells this year, Bradley.
Well, I've made the last 4 that I stole from you into change dishes. So,
so any of you guys got any cowbells you want me to ring in during the football games? I'll be sure to take them.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you will.
Sure you will. But anyway, okay, well, this should do it for us, because somehow the thing has gone out here. And of course, remember Friday night, Bledsoe County will be at Dunlap to take on Sequatchie County in the basketball version of the border rivalry. Of course, softball and baseball starting up in March. Bledsoe's softball team will host Brainerd in the first home opener of the season. We hope that you'll show up for that as well. And remember is that we want the fans to show up Friday night in force to checker the basketball arena blue and gold. I would love to see that happen. I would love to see it happen. We'll have the broadcast on WAT starting at 5:50
I will tell you this, not to interrupt you, but if you're going to go to the Bledsoe Sequatchie game Friday night, you better get there early, because remember, Sequatchie County fills up their side and they try to fill up our side. So get there early, get on Bledsoe's side, and wear your blue and wear your gold and wear your white and cheer for the Warriors. Let's get this game going in our favor from the get-go.
By the way, I'm wearing purple, but that's part of the work costume. It's not because I'm a Sequatchie fan. So
yeah. Look at him, zip it up, try to hide it. Yeah.
Hide it. But anyway, Bledsoe County, Sequatchie County Friday night. The New World border rivalry. That'll be the second game. The last game was in Pikeville. Girls lost, but the boys won, and we're hoping this time for a sweep. So anyway, Bradley, you have some final words?
I always have final words.
You always have final
words. As we're talking about the Bledsoe County basketball teams, let's remember we always say go blue. And we also say go Braves. And we say go Big Orange.
And our next guest will be Deion Sanders, who will come down here and will explain to you that he came up with the Chop Shop, not the Atlanta Braves. Not the Atlanta Braves. So we bid you farewell. We'll see you next time here on the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene, here on Bledsoe County Telephone Cooperative Channel 18. And again, Friday night, Bledsoe County and Sequatchie County, as you're watching the Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18. Good night, everybody.